Hi, my name is Sam Johnson and I'm a voice teacher. Today I am joined with dear friend and my former voice teacher, Mark Reynolds.
Good to be here doing another video with you, Sam.
It's been too long. The world has gone crazy and it's really affected me, and now I'm glad that I can collaborate. So what's really fun about this is I moved from being very far away from Mark to being about 10 minutes away from Mark, and we still have not been able to see each other. But down the line, I'm like really excited to actually do this next to each other.
Oh, it will be so nice. So nice.
So good. So we are going to be reacting to and analyzing John Legend and Sam Smith performing Stand By Me. First off, what does it make you think just seeing his house and seeing all of those awards on the wall? Like, how does that prime you for the rest of this? Because I think that's something a lot of people don't give enough credit, is that our eyes will prime us for how we're going to listen to.
You read my mind. That was one of the first things that drew my attention, because that's, as a stage director, that's what I'm looking at all the time, as for all those subconscious cues, right? And you're right. We watch a YouTube video, we watch these videos, we're just used to thinking whatever's in the background doesn't really matter, right? It could be anywhere. And that is true, but it still does affect us. So this opening shot where we see all these awards sitting there, the reality is like, wow, okay. Even if you didn't know him, you'd be like, I better pay attention to this guy. Because this guy's got legit something going on, right? On top of the fact that he has this really classy, like, it's simple. Like, it's not like cluttered or anything. It's simple but impressive. And then he's in black with a black piano and a white background, which really makes him pop out from it. And then we pan to the rest of his house, and it's like, oh, that's nice. I want to be there. You know, it looks comfortable and at the same time really luxurious. It's like, wow, that would be a good place to be trapped for a little while.
He's living the dream life.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only.
You hear all of that natural reverb in his house. It doesn't sound like terrible echo. It just sounds like he's got natural reverb. That sounds really nice.
Like we see. No, I won't be afraid. I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. Oh, darling, stand.
John Legend singing above an A flat? Oh my goodness. John knows his voice better than pretty much anyone alive, it feels like, and he just like stays in what he's comfortable with.
Right.
Yeah, he went up to a full A right there, and it sounded really, really lovely. My main impression from that last bit was looking at Sam's eyes, looking at their eye shifts. Because you taught me a lot about eye shifts, and that's something that really transformed my personal singing and how I teach people interpretation. What did you notice with how they used their eyes right there?
There's so much to talk about. Let me bring it down to probably the most basic thing, is that they are singing to communicate and to connect, right? With each other and with the audience. And so the two ways to do that are by putting your focus out. So like we're reaching out to someone, right? And then also you're noticing that they're thinking in terms of thoughts. They're not thinking in terms of note by note. They're not thinking about anything than these complete thoughts. They're not thinking about like dynamics. I don't think so. Again, I'm not in their head, so I don't know. But their body language is communicating, I'm thinking a thought. And that thought incorporates the music and the text, and my body language is just engaging in a really natural way. Which, as you know, what that means is if it works ideally, that means their eyes shift at the end of the previous phrase, showing what we're about to see next, and once per phrase. But that's what we're seeing. I'm hearing both of them just as super lean, easy sound up on top. Like they could do this all day long. If you were talking to a student who's like, I want to sound like this, and you had to give 1 or 2 pointers of things they could do today to sound more like this, what would you say?
Sing quieter, you're probably blasting those high notes. And you could hear when John went to the E very early on in it. It's right on his bridge. He let quite a bit of extra breath come in, and it was soft. And by doing that, it prepared him for when he went up to that A. So yeah, doing that, and then you probably are just flexing your jaw too much. Like, just let's be completely honest. Back off on the volume and just really try to relax your jaw.
Awesome.
How do you teach someone to do runs that quick? Do you think that there's more like a genetic component with it? Because I feel like with myself, I've always just been like, oh, Sam, you have this big voice. Your voice will never move like that. But then in the last few days, I've been doing a lot more trying to play with it, just because that's one thing that I've never been comfortable with or confident with. And also just because I would like to be able to teach it a lot more confidently rather than just continuing to refer everyone to Natalie Weiss. But I think it's tough. It's a really tough skill. And for the people who didn't grow up singing along to Christina Aguilera, it's like, how do you teach some adult how to make their voice move that quick?
Well, I actually get that question a lot, and I'm sure you do too. Usually what I have them start doing is slides, and realizing that the only difference between a good run and a slide is that you stop at parts of the slide to make the run, and that you just touch and you just barely stop at moments. And as soon as most singers learn to do that and just keep on a really easy slide, that's usually gets them half the way there. Then the next step is to realize what the problem most people have with slides is they try to make every single note of the riff or slide equal. So it's heavy, 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 heavy. When in reality, what we're looking for is something like heavy, light, 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 heavy, light, 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 heavy, right? Or
so
something
playing
like
more
that.
with the emphases?
Yeah, emphasis, and that lets them pull off in their voice and not feel like they have to give everything equal weight, and that gives a little more fluidity and flexibility to the voice.
Yeah.
And usually if they'll do those two things, it'll get them 90% there, and then it's a matter of just tweaking and finding what they are to get, where the rest of the tension points are. So
with Sam, I mean, they use a lot of runs, but it doesn't sound gratuitous, and that's a really tricky balance of not being too into yourself with it, and that you're just doing it as frosting on top of an already baked beautiful cake. And I think that they do a really good job of that, but it's a tricky balance.
So if you had someone coming to you and they're like, hey, how do I make it sound like it belongs in the song, right? So like it's natural, and it's not like I'm just trying to show off, but it like, because some runs like give you the feels, and other ones it's just like you're just showing off. Just like, shut up and sing the song already, right? What do you think it is that makes a difference?
A lot of it is sparsity. If you give variation, then the times that you use them sound like they're there for a reason. I think some of it is emotional connection to the song. Does the run serve the lyric that you're doing? Does it make sense in support of the emotion you're trying to get across? Does it pull away from kind of the pillars of the song? So it's like we have this arrival coming up. Does this take away from that arrival, or make us late for that arrival, or too slow too much, or speed up or get out of rhythm? You have to be able to sing the song well without any sort of ornamentation. And then once you get really comfortable with all of that, then just start adding in a little bit at a time and see if it still serves you. If you find one that it doesn't serve you on that moment, take that one out. Try it in a different place.
Yeah. I think the other way to think about it is which words really stand out to you as a singer, right?
Yeah.
And those are the words you're going to want to do something extra on, whether it's take it to a higher note or give it a little more volume or add a little riff on it. I think it's like when people start riffing on words that like mean nothing or really totally unimportant words, then it's like, no, you don't get the point of this.
Yeah.
Because really like riffs or runs, or if we're talking about opera, like coloratura, which is this really fast, flowery stuff, it's just basically trying to communicate what words just can't communicate, right? Like it's just that little bit of extra oomph.
Which is the whole point of singing in general, is to try to communicate at a level that just the text will not be able to.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that a lot of people forget, and that it's really important to watch great singers like this who have it all together because they all default to the communication aspect of it, where a lot of people are so concerned with trying to sound a certain way or being on pitch here or on pitch there or on rhythm or whatever it is, that it takes away from the communication. And it is important to work on that stuff. But when you go to sing, like, you gotta just sing like this and think about what you're getting across and use the music to get that across. So any point where it takes away from that, cut it out. You're doing too much.
Love it. Totally.
Oh, stand by me, stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, and the mountains.
He has quite a bit of rounding, but it doesn't sound like it's super operatic. A lot of times when I'm working with students, just to balance their voice, we will explore a lot of different colors, including like ultra round sounds. And a lot of people hear that and they think that it sounds way too classical. How do you explain that to people so that they don't get so in their head about what they sound like that they sabotage the action they're doing?
There's a few things that I say to when they're trying to figure that out. Number one is classical sound is more than just the coloring of it, just the warmness. It's the consistency of vibrato. It's the stylization. It's how crisp your diction is and stuff like that. And the other part is this rounding is more a matter of coloring in that it's darker, warmer, richer the taller we get. And it's brighter and more forward the more lateral we get, is kind of the simplified version of it, right? But that they aren't mutually exclusive. So if you put both of those in together, is actually what I see when I'm watching John sing, is I'm seeing a lot of height, but also a lot of width. You're seeing these teeth come out, my obsession with upper two smile and 80% of yawning smile here is like, you know, like I'm like sitting here like basking in his amazingness. But that's kind of what, you know, I'm seeing when I'm seeing this, is I'm seeing a really nice balance of the tallness and the width. But I think the key is not letting yourself feel like it's just got to stay one thing. It's got to be either or, you know, it's, but that's
flexibility.
Yes. Flexibility.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think?
I think that he sounds really good. He just sounds super, super easy. None of the sounds that he's making is he thinking, here's this next sound that I have to make, and then he pushes for it and tries to make it happen. He just knows what his voice is capable of, and he's just allowing his voice to work in that way rather than trying to force anything. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Should crumble to the sea. I will cry, I will shed.
Like, that almost turns into word painting with the cry. And you gotta, like, find these moments where the text can be amplified by other stuff. And that, I think, is a really good example of it.
Oh, sad.
Contrasted with John, whoa! Like that big whoa. He doesn't use any of that.
I think that's the big difference is when we're watching them is, like I was saying before, for me, the way I think about it is with Sam Smith, there's this wideness, right? It's really wide, that and with John, it's more that, like we discovered together, the kind of that position a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, because every line has to have kind of an under vowel. Not under vowel might not be the right word for it, but just whatever the vowel that is underneath everything. So yeah, the under vowel, and with that gives you a uniform sound all the way through. And with Sam, you do hear more of the and with John, you hear more of the It comes out with more of a bright tone with Sam and more of a dark tone with John. When you put both of the voices together, it's a really nice full spectrum sound. I would love to hear them sing together in the same room.
Yeah. You know what? You just came up with the best T-shirt idea on earth. You know, you just, Sam, are you wearing your undervowel? I don't know. Something like that. I don't know.
Oh, goodness.
Here we go. On we go.
By me, oh, stand by me, stand by me.
It's also interesting how just the microphones in both places, Sam's is much quieter, and I don't think that was just in the mixing of it, but when they go to those harmonies, it just makes a lot more sense because they're not competing with the volume of John on that section.
Right. One thing that I'm noticing here is their blend and like how gorgeous they're sounding together.
Yeah.
But we're saying at the same time, like they're producing the sound, their undervowel is a little bit different, right? So what is it that's making it so they blend? What is that?
Sam is skilled as all can be, and they're just listening really well. I really think it's that. I don't know if they're just listening or if they're watching John, but I think that if they were watching John, that would bring it to another level. But when you're that good, it's listening, and I don't know how to put it into words, but one time in a choir, they just had everyone look at each other instead of at the conductor, and everyone started breathing together and sounded way better. And there's just something that happens when you look and listen with a group, whether it's a group of 2 or of 100, that I'm not sure how to explain it.
Well, I think you actually explained it awesome. I would agree with that 100%. I think that what I'm seeing in John Legend and his body language from the very beginning is I see his brain, and this is probably just me like romanticizing, I don't know, but like I can kind of see in his body language, this listening kind of body language, where even though he's the one singing, it seems like he's picturing Sam's voice in his mind. And his sound from the very beginning, in terms of all of John Legend's potential sounds, is even starts with the one that's closest to Sam Smith's. And I don't know. I always admire that level of like listening and reciprocity and reaching out and trying to like make something together with someone other than like showboating and trying to be more important. I think they do an awesome job of that.
It's masterful. Yeah. So when Sam was doing that, their arms were just like all the way back. It was a very open gesture. A lot of times you can use gesture like that in order to find a more open emotion or connect to it a little bit more. So if that's something that you're struggling with, of connecting to a song, try bringing in those gestures just so that you can feel the energy of it, and then you can drop the gesture if you need to. There's the act.
Stand by me. Stand by. Whenever you're in trouble, won't you stand by me? Stand by me.
Yeah, I love hearing just the really trebly voice from Sam Smith and the really deep voice right there, because it was separated by quite a big distance. Man, they are so good together.
They are. I mean, the other thing I noticed there, like you said earlier, Sam Smith's mic is a little bit quieter. John Legend's is a little bit louder, and he goes with the richer, but you'll notice when he's just by himself as John Legend, we got that bright moment. But then he warmed it right up as soon as Sam jumps in, right? Yep. And that keeps this balance level always together. And I think that's one of the things that makes really great blending is when you, at least some of the voices, that rounded sound helps with blending, right? We hear choirs sing with that all the time. But in this case, even though John's dominant, he's able to pull it back by rounding it a little bit. And I think that's just kind of, whether it's on purpose or he's just so good that he just used to knows that that's what he's got to do. Either way, I think it's brilliant. Love it.
Absolutely.
Stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me.
Yeah, there was so much give and take of I'm singing the main line right now, so I'm going to be a little bit more bright, and then when you're more of the harmony, backing off on the volume or backing off on the brightness, because like you said, in choirs they'll want you to do that really dark rounded sound a lot of the time, just because there's less character to the sound a lot of times, and it doesn't stand out. So it was very, very cool that they were just going back and forth like that. And this was filmed first with John Legend playing and singing, and then sent over to Sam Smith. And so you can tell, John is hearing everything as it's going to be. I wonder what kind of rehearsal process they had for this.
I don't know. I could see it being anything from they rehearsed it a lot to they didn't rehearse it at all. He just put it down and threw it over. I mean, with pros, a lot of that depends on their personality, right? My guess is, if I had to, that they just kind of put it out there.
I also think that's the case. I think they're just good.
Yeah. And when you perform and are singing as much as they are under so much pressure and at that level, there's a lot that you can do, especially with a song like this, that you can just roll with it. And
having all of those high pressure moments, and then just singing in front of a camera in your house. It's a pretty big change in the mindset. And so I think that this is kind of as close as we'll be able to get into what they look like when they're just practicing at home, which is a lovely, lovely sound.
It is. And it's really like, we always have to question when we hear them live in an amphitheater or something else, how much is really being done by the sound technician, Mm-hmm. And yeah, there still is that element here, but there isn't a mic right in their face, and they're just doing their thing. And it is. Yeah. It's just so refreshing. It's like, no, they're really as amazing and stunning if I was just to sit there in their house as they are when they're up on stage. They're that awesome.
That's what I've loved the most about all of these at-home performances, is we don't get very much processing after.
Yeah.
We get to hear them in their houses. You can't do as much processing because these houses are not sound treated. It's the best way to hear an actual human voice, which is really lovely. I say lovely a lot because it's a good word.
It is a good word.
Thank you, Mark. Do you have any other observations?
Nah, that was a lovely time, Sam.
Lovely. Awesome. Go check out all the description links below there. If you want to sign up for a lesson with me or Mark, you can go check out my website, vocalese.net, or check out Mark at, what's your website?
Foundyourvoice.com.
Excellent. Thank you. Have a great day.